The September air in Denver clung to the last whispers of summer. A faint warmth brushing against Evelyn Carter's skin as she stepped out of her beat-up Honda. At 34, she carried herself with the quiet resilience of someone who'd learned to expect little but give plenty. In her arms, a glass bowl of homemade kale salad, her token offering to a family that rarely noticed. It was a courtesy dish. Much like the birthday cards she sent or the loans she'd paid off for relatives who never said thank you. Tonight, though, something felt heavier than the bowl in her hands. She parked in the familiar driveway of her childhood home. Now just her mother's house. The concrete cracked from years of neglect. The porch light flickered, same as always, a tired beacon of a place that refused to change. Inside, the kitchen pulsed with chaos. Wine glasses clinked. Kids shrieked from the living room. And her older sister, Jessica Reed, 38, held court with a laugh that sliced through the noise like a spotlight. Their mother, Margaret, 62, sat at the head of the table, her silver hair pulled back, a half-empty glass of Merlot in hand, her silence as regal as it was cutting. Jessica flitted around, her designer blouse catching the light, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. Late, as usual, she said, eyeing Evelyn's salad with mock pity. Hope you brought something better than that rabbit food. Evelyn set the bowl down without a word, her jaw tight, already shrinking into the role she'd played for years, the invisible sister. Dinner unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. Jessica spun tales of her latest office drama, her voice loud enough to drown out the clatter of forks. Margaret nodded, her approval a currency Jessica hoarded. The kids, Jessica's twins, 12, and her stepson, 15, scrolled through their phones. Oblivious, Evelyn picked at her plate, trying to disappear into her chair. But Jessica had a way of spotting her, like a hawk circling prey. Oh, Evie, Jessica said, her fork stabbing the air. I've got this work thing in Seattle next week. Hotel's pricey. You can cover it, right? I'll Venmo you when my bonus hits. Evelyn froze, her fork hovering. What? Jessica leaned back, smirking. You know, just put it on your card. Like always. Evelyn shook her head, her voice low but firm. Not this time. The room stilled, the hum of the fridge, the kids' giggles, even the clink of Margaret's glass seemed to pause. Jessica's smile didn't waver, but her eyes narrowed. What do you mean, not this time? You're not broke, are you? It's not about money, Evelyn said, her heart pounding. I just don't want to. Jessica scoffed, her laugh a blade. You wouldn't even have that card if I hadn't told you how to fix your credit score. Let's be real, Evie, you live like a nun. No husband, no kids, no life. What do you need money for? Evelyn stood, slow and deliberate, clinging to the fraying thread of her dignity. Jessica, I said no, and then it happened. Jessica grabbed her oversized ceramic mug, steaming with chamomile tea, and flung it at Evelyn's face. The liquid wasn't scalding, but it was hot enough to sting her cheek, her jaw, her collarbone, soaking her blouse. Her fork clattered to the floor. The kids gasped. Evelyn didn't scream. She just stood there, frozen, the burn spreading across her skin. Silence swallowed the room. Margaret, still clutching her wine, barely blinked. Don't upset your sister, she murmured, her voice soft as a reprimand. She's had a rough week. No one moved, no one spoke. Evelyn's niece, a shy 12-year-old, slid a napkin across the table, her eyes wide with fear. Her father muttered, "It's just tea, chill." Evelyn dabbed at her face, her hands trembling not from pain but from the weight of their indifference. They sat there, watching her like she was a minor inconvenience, a glitch in their perfect family script. She excused herself, her voice barely audible, and walked out. The drive home was silent, no radio, no tears, just the hum of tires on asphalt and the hiss of betrayal in her ears. At a red light, she caught her reflection in the rearview mirror, chestnut hair in a messy bun, a tea stain drying on her collar, her hazel eyes hollow. She touched her cheek, unsure if the warmth was from the tea or the humiliation. "This is the last time," she whispered, not a threat, not a vow, just a truth she could no longer ignore. Back at her small apartment, the street was quiet, The neighbor's porch lights already off. She hung her jacket, kicked off her sneakers, and let the stillness wrap around her. It was past midnight, but sleep felt like a luxury she didn't deserve. She sank onto the couch. The lights off, staring into the dim room as if it held answers she hadn't earned. The burn on her cheek throbbed. But it was the ache inside that cut deeper. This wasn't new. It was just the first time it left a mark everyone could see. Morning came too soon. The sunlight slicing across her kitchen table. Evelyn stood at the sink, letting cold water run over her hands. The pink mark on her cheek a faint reminder of the night before. But it wasn't the tea that haunted her, it was everything that came before. Jessica hadn't just asked for her card last night. She'd been bleeding Evelyn dry for years. Gas for her Range Rover. Dresses for galas. Hotel rooms for work trips, she never explained. Evelyn had handed over her card each time, believing it made her useful, hoping it would earn her a seat at the family table. But it never did. Her silence had been her signature. Her guilt. Her currency. She sat with a coffee she didn't drink, staring out the window. Across the street, a neighbor's dog chased a squirrel. Life unfolding in a parallel universe where people didn't throw tea at their sisters. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of the fog. A text from Jessica. Grow up. Evelyn, stop playing victim. You embarrassed Mom. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just the same script Jessica had been reading from for years. Evelyn deleted it without replying. She opened her laptop, created a new document, and titled it, Proof. No plan yet. Just a start, maybe a record. Maybe a shield. Maybe just evidence that she wasn't crazy. As the cursor blinked, her mind drifted to another night. 7 years ago, their father's retirement party at a swanky downtown steakhouse. Jessica had planned it all. The menu. The jazz playlist. The speeches. When Evelyn arrived, there was no seat for her at the family table. Jessica had waved her off. Can you help with the bar? We're swamped. So Evelyn poured drinks, cleared plates, and dodged the pitying glances of cousins who couldn't place her name. Jessica gave a toast that night. Her glass raised high. We're nothing without family. Everyone clapped. Evelyn stood by the kitchen doors. Invisible, she'd whispered to herself. Maybe next year I'll belong. She never did. Later that night, she'd overheard Jessica talking to an aunt. I'm the one holding this family together. Evelyn just coasts. Evelyn had laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the alternative was tears. Jessica didn't see her paying for their uncle's cab home or fixing the slideshow when the projector failed. She didn't see anything. And when you're invisible long enough, you start to forget you exist. The coffee was cold now. Evelyn dumped it in the sink, grabbed her planner, and started writing. Not just the money, the moments. Every time she'd said yes. Every time she'd been told to stay quiet. Every time Margaret had said, be the bigger person, which always meant, be the silent one. This wasn't revenge. It was a reckoning. And for once, she wasn't asking for permission. Days later, an email from her bank arrived. Suspicious activity detected. At first, she thought it was spam. But the logo was real. Her pulse raced as she logged in. Overdue notices. New credit inquiries. A department store card she didn't recognize. Opened 8 months ago in her name. The address on file? Her mother's house. Where Jessica still came and went like she owned it. Evelyn called the bank. Her voice steady despite her shaking hands. The representative confirmed multiple charges. A maxed out card. And sent her a scanned receipt for a $1,500 gaming console. Evelyn opened it and saw Jessica's handwriting. Her looping J's. Her dramatic flourish, signed under Evelyn's name. She sat on her bed, the receipt trembling in her hand. It wasn't the console that broke her. It was the betrayal, the audacity, the certainty that Evelyn wouldn't notice. She opened her proof document and typed, gaming console. $1,500. Unauthorized card opened 8 months ago. Forged signature. She added in bold. Fraud. Then she kept going. Gas for Jessica's car. Groceries for Margaret. Braces for Jessica's stepson. A gown for a charity ball. New tires for the Range Rover. It all came back. Pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known she was assembling. She'd once thought helping made her good. Worthy. When Margaret had brushed off her concerns, Jessica's just dramatic. Don't keep score, Evelyn had stopped asking for fairness. She'd handed over her card and swallowed her pride. But now, she opened her journal, found an entry from last year. Am I being used? Or am I just convenient? The ink had faded, but the question hadn't. She closed the journal, her voice barely a whisper. No more convenience. She drafted an email to the bank's fraud department but paused. Jessica was tech-savvy, could snoop through emails or hack accounts. Evelyn printed everything instead, hard copies. Proof. She stapled them into a folder labeled, Justice. Not a lawsuit. Not yet. But a step. A quiet rebellion against a sister who'd convinced the world Evelyn was the problem. She looked in the mirror. Her reflection steady. The mark on her cheek had faded. But something new had taken root, not anger. Not sadness. But resolve. She crossed a line. Evelyn said aloud, her voice unfamiliar in its strength. A line Jessica couldn't charm her way back over. The Denver night was sharp with autumn's first bite. The kind that made you pull your jacket tighter and question every choice that led you here. Evelyn Carter, now 34, stood at the edge of her family's glowing house, her house. Technically, though the deed felt like the only thing tying her to it anymore. Inside, laughter spilled through the windows. Balloons bobbed against the porch railing. And a banner gleamed in gold. Thank you, Jessica, our family's heart. Jessica Reed, her 38-year-old sister, was being celebrated for a legacy Evelyn had paid for with her own sweat and silence. At that moment, under the flickering porch light, something in Evelyn snapped, not with rage, but with a quiet, unshakable clarity. She was done being erased. She didn't knock. She slipped her key into the back door, the lock she'd installed herself 2 years ago, and stepped into the kitchen like a ghost returning to a life she'd been ridden out of. The air smelled of catered rosemary chicken and expensive wine, the kind Jessica always insisted on but never paid for. Evelyn's eyes scanned the living room. Framed photos lined the mantel. All of Jessica, posing with her kids, speaking at a charity event, standing in front of this house like she'd built it brick by brick. Not one picture of Evelyn. Not even the old Polaroid from their dad's 60th birthday, where Evelyn had grilled the burgers. Her hand had been cropped out. Her presence erased. She pulled out her phone, filming the scene, the banner, the frames, the guest book overflowing with praise for Jessica. Then she saw it. An envelope half tucked under a tray of cupcakes. Her name printed in bold. A property tax notice. Still in her name. Her signature. Her burden. She slipped it into her bag. Her fingers steady. Her heart a drumbeat of resolve. No one noticed her. Not her cousin Lisa, 40. Laughing too loud by the punch bowl. Saying, Jessica practically owns this place. Not her mother, Margaret, 62. Waving off the comment with that vague gesture she used when truth got too close. Evelyn moved through the crowd. Unseen, her sneakers silent on the hardwood she'd refinanced to save this house from foreclosure. In the hallway, she paused at a mirror. Adjusting her ponytail, smoothing her denim jacket. She didn't look angry, she looked done. As she left through the front door, no one glanced up. She walked to her car a block away. And for the first time in years, she smiled, a sharp, private smile that felt like a blade she'd finally learned to wield. Weeks later, the confrontation came unannounced. Evelyn was unpacking groceries in her cramped Denver apartment, the radio humming a soft indie tune. When the buzzer screeched, she opened the door to find Jessica, her face twisted with fury, her designer scarf flapping in the wind. You think you can ruin me? Jessica shouted, loud enough for the neighbor's dog to bark. Sending lawyers, digging up dirt? You're pathetic, Evelyn. Evelyn didn't flinch. She set her grocery bags down and buzzed Jessica in. Her voice calm. Let's not do this outside. People have lives. Jessica stormed into the apartment, her heels clicking like gunfire on the tile. You blindsided me, she hissed, filing complaints. Dragging mom into this? You're sick. Evelyn didn't answer. She walked to her kitchen counter, where a small wooden box sat, a relic from their father. A silver bracelet engraved with EC for Evelyn Carter. A 21st birthday gift she'd thought she'd lost. She'd found it last night, buried in a drawer. A painful reminder of the year Jessica had borrowed it to impress a boyfriend, claiming it was hers. Jessica's eyes locked onto the box, her breath catching. "You still have that?" she asked, her voice softer, almost guilty. "You thought I wouldn't?" Evelyn replied, her tone even. Jessica's face hardened. "It didn't mean anything to you. You never wore it." Evelyn stepped closer, her voice low but cutting. "It did. But so did I apparently, just not to you." Jessica lunged for the box, but Evelyn slid it behind her. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder labeled Justice, its edges worn from nights spent poring over it. She handed it to Jessica. "Read." Jessica flipped it open, her eyes darting over bank statements, loan applications, credit alerts, all with her signature next to Evelyn's name. A $1,500 gaming console. A $2 spa weekend. A maxed out store card. "This is fake," Jessica snapped, her hands shaking. "It's filed," Evelyn said, her voice like steel. "The bank logs, the notary, the timestamps, they don't lie. You can scream all you want, but it's over." Jessica tore a page in half, the paper fluttering to the floor like confetti from a broken promise. "Go ahead," Evelyn said, unmoving. "Rip it all. The court has copies. This is just for you." Jessica froze, her chest heaving, caught between rage and defeat. Evelyn walked to the door, opened it wide. "Leave, Jessica. We're done." For a moment, Jessica stood there, as if waiting for Evelyn to crumble. But Evelyn didn't. Jessica turned, her heels echoing down the hall, the outer door slamming behind her. Evelyn closed her own door with a soft click, knelt to gather the scattered papers, and felt something shift, not victory, but restoration. She was no longer the sister who apologized for existing. On Margaret's 63rd birthday, Evelyn didn't attend the family dinner. Instead, she sent a package via courier to the upscale restaurant where they'd gather. Wrapped in sleek black paper with a silver ribbon, it held 2 items: an empty silver photo frame and a stack of court filings detailing Jessica's fraud. Tucked inside was a single note, written in Evelyn's steady hand. "I'm not the daughter you wanted, but I'm done funding your lies." She didn't imagine the moment it was opened, Margaret's sharp inhale, Jessica's face draining of color, the awkward silence as relatives read the truth. She didn't need to. By the time her phone lit up with calls, her cousin Rachel's "What the hell? Evelyn?" Her uncle's "This could have been handled privately." She was already on her couch, sipping tea, the Denver skyline twinkling outside. Margaret's text came last. "Why humiliate her like this?" Evelyn stared at it, then typed, "Because I was humiliated in silence for years. And no one cared." She powered off her phone, slid it into a drawer, and felt the weight of a decade lift. Her attorney called that night. Jessica hadn't shown up to the preliminary hearing. No statement, no defense, just absence. "She's hoping it'll vanish," the attorney said. "It won't," Evelyn replied, her voice calm but certain. She didn't sleep much, but when she rose at dawn, it wasn't with dread, it was with purpose. Months later, Evelyn stood in a small studio apartment in Portland, the air thick with the scent of rain and cedar. At 35, she'd traded Denver's ghosts for a new start. The apartment was modest: a creaky floor, a humming fridge, a single window overlooking a bookstore's alley, but it was hers. She'd launched a home organization business, Clarity Spaces, and her first clients were already raving. Her desk held a framed business license, a Maya Angelou quote, and the empty silver frame from Margaret's birthday. Some spaces, she'd decided, were better left blank. One evening, unpacking a box of old files, she found a faded bank statement. A $3 charge for a luxury ski retreat, billed to her card during a weekend she'd been at a work conference. Jessica had texted her that week, claiming she needed gas money for Margaret's doctor visits. Evelyn set the paper down, her breath slow and even. There was no anger, just a hollow ache for the years she'd spent making excuses for love. She filed it in a folder labeled Past and kept unpacking. Her phone buzzed. Another missed call from Margaret. The 6th that week. Evelyn didn't answer. A letter from Jessica's lawyer arrived. Full of deflections and legalese. No hint of remorse. She read it once, folded it into the past folder, and stepped onto her tiny balcony. Portland's rain fell in a gentle mist, and she pulled her cardigan tighter, sitting in a metal chair that wobbled but held. Peace wasn't a trumpet blast or a grand apology. It was this, an unanswered call she didn't feel guilty ignoring. A letter that didn't shake her. A memory that stung but no longer bled. In her journal, she wrote, "I didn't win. I walked away. And that was enough." This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming a life she'd been told she didn't deserve. Love, she'd learned, didn't mean enduring harm. Loyalty to family didn't mean swallowing abuse. Silence wasn't grace, it was a cage. Walking away wasn't weakness, it was strength with a spine. If Evelyn's story resonates, let me know. What does family loyalty mean to you? Have you ever felt invisible in your own life? Drop a 1 in the comments if this hit deep. Or share where you're reading from. If it didn't connect, that's okay. Tell me why. Let's talk. And if you believe in truth, healing, and stories that crack you open to put you back together, hit subscribe. The next chapter's coming, and you won't want to miss it.